Accretion refers to the process of gradual growth by the accumulation of additional layers over time. This project studies the accretion of urban Toronto from a view I'm all too familiar with. I have sat by this window for the last 3 years at Ryerson, and I'm going to share with you the beauty of the ordinary, the beauty of a city with a young history, a city that grows exponentially every day. Let's go for a walk. From the minute we leave the school, we are confronted with an example of a building that retains only its original facade. We can see that facade from the alley, but more importantly are exposed to the later additions, obvious from the use of different brick. This view also reveals what once existed next door. Torn away from the brick wall, we see the remnants of an old structure and can sense the quality of its interior volumes. The history of these buildings is told through the layering of textures and materiality, and from a perspective different than that of the average pedestrian. What's more important, the original facade, or the evidence of activity and the evidence of life? Toronto was once known as the city of churches. Although many, including a handful in this walk alone, have since been torn down, their memory can be captured through sound. Imagine hearing the bells of 6 churches, all distinct, yet ringing together in harmony. Look how appropriate the scale of design was to each era. The details of the old cars are comparable to the intricacies of the woodwork seen on the windows and on the doors of the houses, where today the sleek vehicle matches the simplicity and the sleekness of the architecture. Both are valuable in telling the history of manufacturing and the role that industrialization has played on design. Here, streetcar rails are being laid to bring people from their homes into the city center. Now, we see the same materiality on the city TV tower, alternatively broadcasting outwards and into each living room in the city. We can take advantage of another alleyway where we can see the weathering of city streets. The asphalt is cracked and chipped under the weight of so many passing vehicles. Here stood the Herman Annex, a complement to its sister next door, both designed by Benjamin Brown. This 6-story building was sacrificed for a new tower complex with the promise that 21 Dundas would be fully restored. Look at how we can see the stairs imprinted on the wall, as if their memory has been burned in place. An accidental but very poetic telling of what was once a fire escape. Dundas Square did not always exist, but its creation in the dense downtown core has given a place of gathering and of sharing back to the public. It's not uncommon to witness moments like these, of a father throwing his little girl in the air, and the sound of her giggling reminds us of how important these public places are. We looked at 21 Dundas, once the tallest building at 15 stories, and the new complex behind it, towering over, emphasizing the difference in building technology from then to now. But the bronze door still glistens. At this moment, it seemed every other person stopped to see what I was photographing, some confused, some intrigued. One man stopped. He lives on Church Street and has walked to work along Dundas every day for the last 30 years. He remembers the church that E.J. Lennox designed well, and even knows someone living in those condos today. He promptly insisted that I make a point of photographing his church down the street. Here's a man so proud to be able to share his memories and his neighborhood with a complete stranger. As we walk up on towards Ryerson University, some changes are subtle, like the shape of the domes on this church. Some changes are more drastic, like the replacement of the normal school for Kerr Hall. Through another alley, we see how history is captured in a reflection. Located on a lot once owned by Thomas Bond, a brickmaker, the O'Keefe Brewery is now a student residence. Quite appropriately, the use of brick in this building tells the story of how it evolved and how it adapted to its new uses over time. The addition of a third floor, the filling in of windows and doors, and this perfect slice that removed it from its neighbor. In 1975, the Ontario Heritage Act was introduced, giving municipalities the authority to designate buildings they felt reflected their history best. But the legislation offered no definition of heritage and no permanent protection against demolition of listed properties. Preservation in Toronto therefore existed in compromise and confrontation, not in celebration. In this short walk, I've been able to show you how the nuances and depth of our city's past could be captured traditionally through street names, monuments, facade retention, and adaptive reuse. But more compelling is the memory that has been captured in the voids of what existed, through weathered materials and textures, through sound, through reflection. We dust away the layers of urban accretion, the dust on our memories, and reveal an immaterial past. If we value this type of preservation, a celebration of physical and ephemeral accretion, Toronto can grow to include a rich and integrated telling of our past, of our present, and of our tomorrow.